There's a certain type of notary certificate that's been circulating around the state of Alabama for years, and it's time for it to be canceled once and for all. Kudos to the Alabama Probate Judge Association for mentioning this certificate and others like it when our notary laws changed in September 2023. My name is Michelle. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you've subscribed to this channel already, I want to say thank you. By subscribing and liking my videos, you encourage me to continue posting free content, and YouTube does its part by getting this message in front of more Alabama notaries. We're going to take a close look at the problematic notary certificate wording. Then we'll look at notary certificates that we all should be using. If you don't mind, I'm going to remain off camera for this particular discussion so that we can focus on the information on the screen. Some of you know my facial expressions can be quite animated at times. And what we're going to cover today is really important. I also want to do a shout out to the Alabama Notary who emailed me and asked me to cover this topic. I'll refer to them as DF. DF has taken nearly every class that I offer. DF is also a subscriber to this channel and is a member of the free Facebook group called Notaries for Alabama Hangout. If you aren't a member, I want to encourage you to join us. DF, this topic of the problematic notary certificate, it's been on my to-do list since last year. Your email encouraged me to stop procrastinating and get down to business. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So DF's question was, Michelle, I understand the wording has changed on the certificates with the new notary law. Would you point me in the right direction? Yes, DF, I can point you in the right direction. But first, I think it would be helpful, especially for those Alabama notaries who may have never had any formal training, it would be good for me to explain what the notary certificate is and its purpose. And the first rule of thumb is if a document does not have a notary certificate, we cannot perform a notarization. The notary certificate is the section of the document that we notaries complete, we sign, and we apply our notary seal. So that's what we will be talking about today, and I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. Let's get started. I feel that the best Alabama notary certificate will answer 4 questions. Who, what, where, and when. Who, what, where, and when. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. Let's go a little deeper, if you don't mind. What I mean by who, I'm talking about the signer. The signer's full name, that's the person that you, the notary, meets with in person. It's the person who showed you government-issued identification that allows you to confirm their identity. If the notary certificate has 2 or more signer names already typed on the form, but you only meet with one person, that's going to be a problem that you're going to have to fix before moving forward with the notarization. The who also includes any official witnesses that need to be present and that need to sign the form and that you need to notarize their signatures. It's going to be important that you verify their identities as well. Who also pertains to you, the notary. This is where on the notary certificate that you're going to add your official credentials, your name and signature as they appear on your notary commission, your printed title, notary public, and your commission expiration date. So again, I'm saying that the best notary certificate will require all of this information, and it answers the question of who. The next question is what? There are different types of notarizations that we can perform here in Alabama. The notary certificate is what tells us what type of notarization or notarial act to perform. There's an acknowledgement. It requires that we verify the signer's identity, and if the form was already signed before the signer met with us, we're required to ask the signer if, in fact, the signature on the form belongs to them. We're also required to ask the signer if they understand what they signed and if they signed their name to the form voluntarily. The other most common notarization that we see in Alabama is the jurat notarization. Similar to the acknowledgement, except we must watch the signer make their signature on the form, and we're required to place them under oath. Copy certification is another type of notarization we perform in Alabama, and it has its own unique requirements. Since there are even more types of notarizations we can perform here in Alabama, we must make sure that the wording on the notary certificate is in line with the steps that we take when meeting with the signer, and that those steps all comply with current Alabama law. We don't have time to go into each notarial act right now, but we can circle back to that in another video. These are the 3 most common ones that we will see. We've talked about the who. We just mentioned the what. The next question that needs to be answered is the where. The where relates to the venue. The venue names the state and the county where the notarization took place. I know this sounds easy, folks, but a lot of notaries get the venue wrong. Here's a tip. The name of the state must always be Alabama. Why? because as commissioned Alabama notaries, the state of Alabama is the only place where we can perform notarizations. So yes, the venue reflects the location where we are performing the notarization. Now, some certificates, some forms may ask us to indicate the name of the city or even an address for the signer, or for where we're located, I should say. If it does, it's fine for us to add that, but in addition to mentioning the state and the county, that must be reflected. That takes care of the where. And finally, the when. When is the date? And we're looking at the day, month, and year that you notarize the signature. Now notice how I phrased that. I didn't say month, day, and year like we normally write it. When working with legal documents, it's preferred that we use day, followed by month, and a 4-digit year. Now, if you're performing a jurat notarization, the date on the notary certificate that you fill out must match the date that the document was signed by the signer. If they don't match up, that's a problem. That can be a big problem. Please don't guess when filling out the date section of the certificate. It must be accurate. And so check your watch, check your phone, bring a calendar with you. It has to be correct. Now, I know I used the word finally, but I do want to mention how. The how doesn't come up all the time, but with out-of-state documents, you will see it on occasion. There will be some notary certificates that will ask you to explain how you verified the signer's identity, which isn't a bad idea, but you won't see it every day, that's for sure. And so you're going to either indicate that you personally know the person, that you checked or examined government-issued identification. If you've ever heard the term credible witnesses, that is not allowed in Alabama. It is allowed in some other states, but we can't use that. That's when the signer says, hey, I'm sorry, I don't have any ID, but I did bring 2 friends with me that will vouch for my identity, and they have ID. So that is not allowed. You may hear or you may have read about subscribing witness. That's not the same as a credible witness, and I will cover that in another video. So, remember, we notaries are responsible for making sure that the notary certificates that we complete, sign, and stamp answer the following questions when we read the notary certificate. It must indicate who we met with. Our credentials need to be reflected. What type of notarial act we're performing, where the notarization took place, and the date that we notarized the signature. I hope that is clear enough. I hope that answers any questions, lingering questions that you may have had. Now I want us to look at a notary certificate that does not measure up to Alabama's requirements. After that, we'll take a look at some examples of actual notary certificates that we should be using on a regular basis. And we're going to go to the Alabama Probate Judge Association first, to that website. And then we're going to go over to the National Notary Association's website. And so give me a moment to pull up those documents. All right. What you should see on the screen now is a sample owner's affidavit. This is a very common form that notary signing agents will see when someone is either refinancing property or selling property. Now, this is an older form. I did have to redact or edit to remove any personal identifiable information. And as you know, when you do that to a PDF document, it's quite possible or common that you will end up seeing some, let's see here, some, I'll call them mistakes or some ghosts. I'll show you what I mean, like just some random typing. And you're going to see more of that, just ignore it. So again, this is the owner's affidavit for residential property. I'm going to scroll all the way down through the second page. Those of you who like a challenge, I'd like for you to start making note of anything that you see is wrong or missing on this form, on this, in particular, on the notary certificate, and go ahead and type it in the comments below. I want to see what jumps out at you. I'm going to go on mute. I'm going to be quiet, give you an opportunity to make your notes, and then we're going to talk about it. Again, this, you don't need to comment on it. This is unrelated to our notary certificate discussion. Now here is page 2. What, if anything, stands out to you about this certificate? I'll give you just a little longer to make your comments, and I'll be sure to recognize those of you in the comments. I'll follow up with you with a thumbs up or follow-up question or an answer. So I'll tell you what's jumped out at me. The first thing that concerns me is the venue. Normally the venue is at the bottom If the document is just one page, it should be on that one page at the very bottom of the form. If it's multiple, if the document is multiple pages, the notary certificate can typically be found on the last page at the bottom, underneath where the signers sign their name. With this form, I hope I don't make anybody dizzy. What stood out to me was this, and I'm not going to say it was wrong. It's quite possible that the title company or whomever, I believe this would be considered a title document, who completed this, they may have indicated here the location of the property, and it kind of looks that way. So where at first I'm like, well, maybe they just put the venue here. And if this is supposed to be the venue, there's a problem with the state, because we Alabama notaries are not commissioned in the state of Nevada. Yes, we do have a county of Baldwin, which again, this is why this could be tricky. A new notary might think, if the new notary lives in Baldwin County, Alabama, that this is acceptable or nothing needs to be changed. So again, the true actual place where we need to see the venue information is at the bottom of page 2, ideally here where you see that red dot, and it is missing. And so we here in Alabama should either add it here, and there's not much room, add it manually by writing it in or attaching a correct notary certificate. We call those loose certificates. All right. So, and that would be the where. So the where is problematic. The other thing that is problematic is the who. One, we have the signature lines down here as part of the certificate, which is a little unusual. But the reason why I say it is vague or a little confusing is here. This is where the names of the signers should be indicated by the notary, or it could be pre-printed, and it isn't. What I'm getting at is this. Adam and Eve are both named in this document. What if the notary only meets with Adam? Adam signs his name. The notary completes the notarization that reads, "Sworn to and subscribed before me this day of blank." Hands the form back to Adam. Oh, and applies the notary seal. Hands it back to Adam. Adam gets home to Eve. Eve says, "Babe, where were you?" Adam said, "Oh, I went and met with the notary to get my signature notarized." Eve says, "Love, we were supposed to go together. Remember, both of us need to sign." Adam could be tempted to say, well, since the notary already signed and stamped it, why don't you just go ahead, Eve, and sign your name? Now it will appear that the notary met with both Adam and Eve, verified both of their identities, and placed both of them under oath and watch them sign their name, and that did not happen. This is something that gets notaries in trouble quite a bit. It's unintentional, but it's still an error. So the who is vague as well. It is imperative if the name of the signers are not part of the notary certificate that the notary takes steps to clarify who exactly he or she met with. The date, I'm not crazy about this. A notary who has not been trained might think that the only thing that is needed is the day and the month. That's all I could come up with. What about you? Did you find anything different from what I found? We've got the commission. The other part of the who, we've got a place for the notary to sign, the notary's title, the notary's commission expiration date, and a place for the seal. So that is fine. We talked about the who. It's not real clear in this certificate who the notary met with. We do have the what, which is the type of notarization. The where is problematic because of the venue, and the when could be better as well. So several things that we need to correct. Now let's take a look at those two websites that I mentioned.